Hello everyone, my name is Luoman Zhao. I am a PhD student in RWTH Aachen University Institute of Landscape Architecture. I suppose you all heard Chinese wet markets in this special time, and vendors are the common phenomenon in Southeast Asia countries. Indeed, the informal sector in food systems face a lot of risks, but there are also many benefits for sustainability. In this presentation, I will show what are the informal systems in China. The topic of my presentation is Challenges and Opportunities of Informal Food Systems for Sustainability in Nanjing. It's a part of my PhD research. My talk will be in 4 parts. At first, I will introduce informal food systems. Then I will show the field trip of Nanjing. Then I analyzed the risks and benefits of informal food systems in Nanjing. At last, I proposed the possibilities for sustainable informal food systems. So, what is the informal sector in food systems? The informal sector is made up of informal production units or informal sector enterprises, typically small or non-registered enterprises. There are 3 main characteristics. First, in food systems, it helps to generate employment and incomes. Second, household enterprises are the groups that are involved in informal sector in food systems. Most importantly, informal is different from illegal. They are not deliberately intended to evade the payment of taxes or social security contributions. For example, the specific criteria informal is different from country to country. Registered enterprises in China with 7 or fewer workers are considered to be informal, while the standards of International Labor Organization are 10 employees. Informal food systems focus on small-scale food production and vendors' markets that contribute to local food and short food chains. Production and marketing are the 2 most important parts. Agriculture in China belongs to neither formal sector nor informal sector, but there are informal food production and formal food production. The uses of land depends on its property and ownership, so informal food production refers to farming on non-agricultural land. Different groups tend to farm on different kinds of land. Only the small-scale farmland which owned by farmers are protected by laws. For example, this is Shiziba, which is located in Maquan subdistrict in Nanjing, and this is informal food production. The farmland and nearby villages demolished in 2015, and after that, this area is abandoned because of the relocation compensation problems between some farmers and the government. A lot of residents nearby began to produce vegetables in this vacant land. As you can see from this map, some areas still remain abandoned, but some have transferred to vegetable plots. These people produce food not only for self-consumption, but also for selling. Normally, itinerant vendors and vendors in open-air markets are also farmers who sell their own agri-food. The non-agriculture vendors prefer to rent a stand in wet markets. Well, what the difference is from these 3 types are marketplace. Wet markets generally inside the buildings. Both wet markets and open-air markets contain many stands and a wide variety of products. Most of stands are selling vegetables. Itinerant vendors are the most informal way, and many of them are illegal. Food systems are complicated, that formal activities and informal activities entangle in the food chains. I figure out food chains according to informal production and marketing in this graph. Some food from large-scale farms also flow to vendors, but that depends on the types of food and marketplace. In order to focus on local food consumption and short food chains, several sectors need to be excluded in this research, including big farms and small shops. Besides these animal products, including meat and milk, cannot be sold in open-air markets because of the simple and decrepit infrastructure. So this research only focuses on fresh plant-based food. I compared formal food systems and informal food systems. Informal food systems are more traditional, which focus on food production and marketing and branded fresh food, while the structure of production in modern food systems is dominated by higher value horticulture and animal products. Formal food systems are increasingly strengthening logistics and distribution in long food chains with higher value and value-added products. According to a survey from the Hungry City Partnership in Nanjing, 23.6% of the household purchase food from street vendors, and 92.6% of households visit wet markets for food. To identify and document informal food chains in Nanjing, fieldwork has been executed in August and September in 2019. Nanjing is the capital city of Jiangsu province and is in the lower reaches of Yangtze River. I selected 3 sub-districts to interview the vendors and trace the food chain to production sites. In the end, 6 samples are selected and analyzed in this presentation. As you can see from this map, vendors are selling the food in the city center, and their farmlands are located in the urban and peri-urban areas. This is a summary of samples from 3 sub-districts, including itinerant vendors and 1 open-air market. This open-air market just opened at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., so generally it's called morning market in China. There are 2 sites outside Nanjing, so they are not included in the following research. The vendors in these 3 samples are farmers. In the morning market, vegetables and fruits are main food items. Vegetable vendors stands account for 65%, and the fruit vendor stands account for 14.5%. These are production sites. Banqiao subdistrict and Guli subdistrict have many small-scale vegetable plots, while Qilin subdistrict is different. There are a large area of arable land, but these lands are rented to a company from farmers. Only a few farmers grow vegetables for the self-consumption and supplies for selling. The vendors in these 3 samples are food producers, but not farmers. Small-scale farmers and the new urban residents make a living by urban farming and selling food in open-air markets or wet markets. The new urban residents means they were farmers, but now they transferred from farmers to the urban residents and they lost their farmlands. The last case is from the literature. In China, farmer collective has the ownership of agriculture land, and local leaders allocated this collectively controlled land to farmers. So food production on construction land is informal food production. Due to the compensation issues, inappropriate urban planning or supervision, and the delay from developers, some lands are redistributed and left unused or even abandoned during the construction. This presentation started the evaluation principles from organizations including American Planning Association and Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Then the description of risks and benefits were developed who can be applicable to informal food systems. This is principles of Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. It contains governance, sustainable diets and nutrition, social and economic equity, food production, food supply and distribution. I described risks and benefits of informal food systems along the food chain, from production, processing, distribution, marketing, consumption, and recycling, through 3 dimensions, including environmental dimension, social dimension, and economic dimension. Informal food systems are marginalized by growing food companies and complicated modern logistics. They are also ignored by public policies and is criticized as a threat of food safety. However, the existence of informal food systems in developing countries demonstrates that there are many grassroots still need to rely on these agri-food trade activities. Agri-food in informal food systems is out of supervision system, so it might damage the oil, water, and human health. Informal food systems have low economic competitiveness and high social values, but the social and environmental value are often overlooked. This makes it really hard to get more support from government or social organizations. Well, the informal food systems contribute to cities' own metabolism, that the local food production and consumption contribute to reducing the inputs of energy and materials by using local resources and reducing outputs of many kinds of waste. To sum up, the failure of vendors' clean-out plan in many cities show that eliminating informal food markets and small-scale farming can be unrealistic. So it is very important to improve it. Small-scale urban agriculture is neglected by urban planning and even regarded as a sign of urban backwardness. Civic organizations in informal food systems could play a more important role to coordinate the relationship between fragmented small-scale urban food production and the government. Official planning cannot take all these situations into account and build a sustainable informal food systems because of the huge population, temporary food production, and changing land markets. As an effective way to improve the sustainability, informal planning is generated by a dynamic, fluid, and temporary purpose-oriented networks to empower citizens in self-producing public spaces. Organic farming can be a tool to improve the competitiveness of the small-scale urban agriculture because of lower inputs and higher prices. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, you can contact me or ask me in the following discussion session.